but it's Wednesday, and you know what that means. It's time for, hey, did you see this one? As I said already, we are doing the lovely movie from 1993. Did you guys? I thought this movie came out a little bit later. I didn't realize it was 93. But also another thing I learned about this movie tonight that I didn't know before is that it's actually like distributed by Troma, who of course did Toxic Avenger and many C-list sort of midnight movie sort of low budget.
They were like, it's a film company that injects creative projects with enough money to make a very low budget movie, and that's
exactly
what this is.
And I actually this is one of the rare, I didn't finish it, but this is one of the rare times where I did start the commentary right after the movie, because I got up and the movie kept playing on YouTube. It's on YouTube. I don't think it's well hidden. I don't think it's illegal. I think they would have taken it down by now.
No,
if it was
been
a
up
problem
for several years, and
it
was the first thing that popped up. I was just looking to see where I could watch it, and it came up on YouTube. It's like, here it is, it's right here. Okay,
so it's not a situation where it's like, go out and rush out and find it. It might be taken down. It's going to be on YouTube forever, including the
commentary is also nice.
Yeah, and it's Trey Parker. He comes on and he says, we're going to do something a little different than most commentary tracks. We're going to just get drunk. And then it's Matt Stone and a few other people that were in this movie. That
sounds dope.
Yeah, I'm actually going to go back and watch it because I love to listen to Trey Parker talk. He's really entertaining to listen to talk about the process of making content, and you can learn things from him. But the first thing that he talked about in it was that they blew their load money-wise on that opening scene. Because it's the only time that had like good practical effects in the whole movie. I would classify this movie as a horror comedy, but the horror is
that jaw.
The jaw pull and like the blood spurt out the arm, and it's really campy and it's fun, and I loved it. But it was funny to hear that they spent $4,000 on that, and he was like, it was one of the most expensive shots in the whole movie. So anyway,
imagine all the white shirts you need.
I also think they picked like the color grading of that opening scene was like turned up. The white was turned up. It was on a snowy background, and it was really cool that the blood popped so much. This movie has a lot of technical failures as a film, but it also has some great utilization of what little you have, including ADRing over all the lines. And sometimes, I don't know, they couldn't get the actor. They just thought it'd be funnier to have Trey Parker ADR his own stuff in. So anyway, let's do the old top of the show, go around and talk about who, what, where, why you saw this movie for the first time or heard about it. This week we'll start with Steve, because I feel like I favor Kaylin when I'm hosting.
Rude. Okay. So I had thought that I had seen this movie, but I have now convinced myself that I really hadn't seen at least all of it. I know I've seen some of it, bits and pieces here and there. So I would consider the first time that I watched this fully through end to end and absorbed everything that I was seeing a couple of days ago. To me, it was interesting to watch it's always interesting to watch the very first sort of like professional tier level of a director's career, specifically, especially like in this case, Trey Parker did a lot. He didn't just direct. He starred in it, he wrote all the music, he edited, he produced, he did lots and lots and lots. But interest is one thing. I kind of felt after watching the movie that it was a bit of a slog, difficult to watch at times, and kind of boring. But I did find the making of information, which I was going to bring up the same thing that you just spoke about, Jason. We can talk about it a little bit more later, how they spent the majority of their budget on the first scene, but that was due to all the special effects they wanted to do. And it reminded me a lot of like the young filmmaker in film school's dream of like, well, Sam Raimi made The Evil Dead on a shoestring budget, and it is like still to this day making money. Like they re-release it every couple of years in a new format with new commentary tracks and new things for you to dig into in terms of special features, and it's still making the original investors money to this day. This movie, on the other hand, is that's not the case. It's not the case. It's not the case.
Maybe we'll bring a resurgence to it with this episode.
Oh, we will. Except I'm probably going to shit on the movie for most of this podcast, so I don't know.
Yeah.
But again, it is interesting, and I did find the behind the scenes stuff to be more interesting than the movie itself. And I feel like I'll probably want to talk about that stuff a little bit more than the actual movie, because there isn't really much to talk about in terms of story or performances. Even the music it kind of fell short for me a lot of the time. My brain sort of turned off for a lot of it. There's a few numbers that I was like, oh, they're doing something fun here at least. But the majority of them, I was like, this is like, it's not funny. Like it's not funny to me. And that could be due to the fact that, you know, they're very funny people, but they probably were making themselves laugh more while making the stuff than the people who were watching.
I'd pay to see that movie.
The movie of them making this movie?
Them making themselves laugh. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, like, listen, their movies get better. Like this is not
the
even
literal next
movie
movie is 100 times better than this movie.
Yeah, this movie was based on a fake trailer that Trey Parker made as a project in one of his film classes, that he had heard the story of Alfred Packer, and he was like, it would be great to make this into a musical, but also he had just broken up with his fiance at the time who was cheating on him, and that's why the name of the horse is what its name is, because that was the name of his fiance at the time.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's like the whole movie
that.
is basically just a big middle finger to this woman who, like, she had like cheated on him and stuff too, right? So it was like, that was
let it out another cowboy rider.
Yeah,
well,
exactly.
Yeah, that
so
explains that whole number, that the song.
But like
her.
Without context, you're like, okay, like it's obviously like there's an allegory going on here, but like, okay, yeah, it's the horse is his lady. I don't get it. And then you hear that and you're like, oh, well, it's kind of petty, but whatever. I guess if your fiance cheated on you, yeah, that's pretty rough.
He was probably like 20 also when he wrote this movie.
But he went to like the next level. Instead of just doing something petty, he made an entire movie. Well, I mean, he made the trailer and then he kept it in the movie, the movie that was released and can be watched to this day. That woman, wherever she is, anytime anybody mentions this, she is the horse in this movie. A horse that's also a whore who gets her head chopped off at the end.
And farts a lot.
Yes, and she farts all the time. Anyway, so yeah, the first time I watched this fully through was on Monday, and mixture of feelings throughout, but mostly was more interested to dig into like how this even got made afterwards. And I was finding myself laughing more at the information I was getting from like just even the wiki page than I was during the movie itself.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that it's what you're saying about the whole trauma thing. I don't know if you guys have ever seen Lloyd Kaufman, but he's kind of a poor man's Mel Brooks. He finds joy and happiness in just making films, but he, unlike Mel Brooks, wants to make big numbers, big comedies for the ages, where Lloyd Kaufman just wanted to help out the little guy, it seems like. And I could imagine a young Trey Parker meeting Lloyd Kaufman to put together this project and it changing his entire life, because they seem like the kind of people that were probably watched trauma movies, because I think Trey Parker and Matt Stone met in college, and they were making projects and stuff together, and they probably watched trauma movies, because those were like before the internet, those were like the viral videos of the 70s and 80s.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So Kalen, let's hear from you, my man, my guy. What how are you introduced to this movie?
Well, you said at the top of the segment, who, what, hair, well, I mean, who, what, where, how, why, when. Me, who, what.
Hair. You said hair in that, by the way. I just want to
Hair,
point that
where,
out.
when.
Who, what, hair, why, when.
I have hair under this hat. It's still there.
They're gonna pop onto a big afro. I want to get in. I can't wait to talk about how many jokes that these two fucking guys recycle through all their live action shit.
There,
But
yeah.
anyway, sorry, Caitlin, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead, buddy.
Not at all. Not at all. You're adding. You're adding. This movie, Cannibal, the musical, my place, Halifax, Nova Scotia, and the internet with all of you wonderful people out there.
All of you wonderful person.
I did watch this movie. Can we talk? Anyway, how? That was how. Why? Because
I have a question. I have a question for you since you did sail the high seas to view this film. Yeah. Did you see what it looked like on YouTube? Because it looks like absolute dog shit on YouTube, but I don't remember it looking that much better when you're watching an actual print copy of it. Did it look okay?
It looked like a VHS movie, or like it looked like a C movie on VHS.
Okay.
But it looked fine, like it looked clear or whatever, right? It's just I'm not sure if it's because of lighting or maybe it's a mixture of.
Well, I don't. This movie I don't think is filmed on film. I think it's filmed on video, like on tape.
Yeah.
Like I don't think the cameras they were using were because like the budget wouldn't have been able to.
It looked like 80s TV, so it was probably filmed on those big like tape video cameras they use to do on location like news.
Gotcha. Yeah, that kind of looks like I can see that. Yeah, but so I already found it before you mentioned the YouTube thing. This is a pirate, ladies and gentlemen. By the way, that's what that is. Anyway, so I already found it prior to you guys mentioning the YouTube thing, so I didn't bother checking it out on YouTube. But yeah, it looks fine. It was dated in the sense of like that was high quality, low budget stuff at the time or whatever, I'm sure, kind of thing. So like you said, like, you know, newscasting cameras or like on location cameras or whatever, like you can tell there's not a lot of money in it, but like you said, Steve, it is really cool to see an artist's or whoever's early work and the growth of it, but also their soul or whatever, right? There's still nuggets of elements of like who they are and what they're trying to like convey and that sort of thing, and their style that's like still like trying to find itself and that sort of thing. So it was very fun in that sense. But this was my first time watching it. Thank you for introducing me to it, Jason. I think I'm a little more simple-minded than you are, Steve, and I was able to.
We say differently minded around here.
So I did have Kalen in mind a little bit. I knew that he would enjoy this more than you, Steve. I thought Steve would find it. Your reaction to it is basically exactly what I thought. Both of your reactions are basically exactly what I thought.
I was hoping for a little bit more than what I got, but like, it's fine.
Yeah,
I'll get into it later.
It's going to be more of a musical, like when it's like Cannibal.
There's a lot of songs in the movie. There's more songs than the average musical in this movie.
I want to say 5 or 6 or something.
I think there's like 8. Like there's a lot.
That was what like it that for some reason I thought it was like all musical. I think is what I thought.
Oh, like a Sweeney Todd where they're just
like
singing
Sweeney
the whole time.
Todd. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That would be would probably be more entertaining.
Be way more entertaining.
I would have been more entertained for sure.
And what's the guy who plays Squeak in, like, we'll talk about him again when it comes up, but it put a smile on my face to see him. But no, so like I'm definitely, I enjoy like simple jokes for sure. So I did catch myself laughing quite a bit throughout this. I put aside, comparing it to higher budget movies, like I was able to kind of channel that part of my brain off or whatever. And I had so the first watch, I had a few chuckles or whatever. then the second watch, I did like just kind of take little notes of little things that I noticed, and which we'll kind of get into or whatever. And then today, I didn't watch the whole thing, but in between calls, I put it on again. And I don't know if it's the new medicine that I had, but like I think you need to be in the right mindset is another thing too for this. If you're in the right mindset, it's awesome.
I think sorry, finish. So
and I'm done. No, and I'm done. Go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, like, for me, I watched this movie for the first time in probably like 2006, right around the beginning of the internet, right when like you could just torrent anything you wanted. There was a time when you could literally sail the high seas for everything available.
You can still do that.
Sort of. It's hard to find old lost media unless you
old stuff. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. This movie's probably still there, but it's hard to find. Like, if somebody recommends like a bad 80s movie, chances are you're not going to be able to find it. Even there's a lot of stuff that is just like difficult to find now, especially television. Back in the day, you could find, when torrenting first began, people would leave things up seeding for years. And then there was a great torrenting blackout sort of when streaming sort of hit it hard, but then that shifted to IPTV content, which is like a pay service that you have to pay for to get channels and basically torrenting, and the free element of that sort of fell off and torrenting came back. So anyway, I digress. I watched this back then. I found it super funny, and to what you said, depending on the medicine you're on, it can be riotous. This time around, I watched it literally today after work, and I misremembered and thought this was going to be an easy week for us. I thought this movie was only like 70 minutes or something. Like, I didn't remember how much there was, how much dragged on.
It was longer than
so I'm not gonna let that, I have a rating for it. I'm not gonna let that sway me, because I feel like this is an important movie as a fan of Trey Parker and Matt Stone. But I definitely, this is probably the third time I've ever seen it, and it was.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, absolutely.
So there is a scene in the movie that reminded me of you, and I'm curious if maybe you think that like when you do this, it's rooted in that, maybe.
Could be.
But when the part that I'm thinking of is he like says, he introduces his horse, like, this is my horse Leanne, and then the horse farts, and then they just like look at him, and then he's just kind of, there's like, hi. That little hi reminded me of you a lot.
I think that's
not a question, Kalen.
I think
can I ask you a question?
If I do that, that's what it's from or whatever.
Yeah.
But no, but it is a very Trey Parker and Matt Stone joke, and I was basically comedically raised by South Park, Orgasmo, and Basketball. So maybe subconsciously, I think that I just watched Basketball too much as a teen, and we'll get into. I don't have receipts, but there's a lot of jokes in this that they just jacked straight up because they knew that this wouldn't see the light of day. Really,
maybe it's because they based it on a trailer, and then they had to just take their trailer and stretch it out into a film length, like a theatrical.
But what I mean is, like, when they would go on to make other content, they had no problem jacking jokes or premises for jokes from this. I think my favorite joke in the whole movie might be when he whistles and it makes a horse sound.
Yeah, I caught that. I noticed that.
And it's super subtle, and you could think that the sound doesn't go, like, it could just sound like you're mishearing it. But this time I was just watching, and I was like, oh, that's great. He definitely did that on purpose. Obviously,
was he doing the Cartman voice, or was that supposed to be like a different character in the background that we don't see?
Cartman doesn't exist yet. right?
No, I know, but he does that.
When they're
it's the
walking
voice
up to
that
town,
he's probably been doing since he was a
that's
kid.
what I was going to say. The other thing I noticed is when Frenchie gets his balls knocked into another dimension, his voice is just Butters. And that's just Trey Parker's voice. Or actually, it might be Matt Stone. Anyway, it's one of their voices just like pitched up.
Matt Stone does Butters. That part was kind of confusing to me. I was like I did just witness him get his balls smashed over and over again, and then the next scene he has a higher voice, and I was like,
they should have. I think it was a situation where they could have had him say like a line with his balls
right
smashed,
after he got his balls smashed,
and then it would make more sense. But
Yeah.
the reveal of his high voice also, like, we've been watching cartoons and comedy for our whole lives, so we all got it immediately.
But it was a different kind of high voice, though. Like, it did like, throw me off.
Yeah.
It was modulated to be higher.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't like he was doing a higher pitched voice. They just ramped it up in the
okay.
I don't think that was either Trey Parker or Matt Stone doing the voice. I think they just took that guy's actual lines and heightened the pitch. Like, I'm pretty good with identifying the two of them when they're doing voices outside of like their own dialogue. But Matt Stone's character is basically just Butters the whole time. He's doing the Butters voice. It's just not modulated.
He's doing the Butters voice, but
he's just talking like this. Like he's just doing like, what it is.
But he is like, he's aesthetically Kyle.
Yeah.
He's also kind of doing the Kyle voice because he's Kyle on the show, right? So he's kind of Butters.
But he's doing like he's playing the stupidity of Butters. Like, Butters and Kyle's voice are very similar. It's just like he has a certain way of saying certain words between the two of them.
Yeah.
But it is one thing that like
innocent.
Yeah, if you ever watch them when they're recording, it's very interesting because I do I do voices sometimes for things, and it's difficult. It's difficult to do a child's voice until I start watching them do it. I'm like, oh, they're in like they know how to make their voices sound more like kids, and you're like, oh, you have to change your mouth. Like, you can't just like heighten the register. And
when he does Cartman, he's like, hey,
you
get and pizza.
Yeah,
like he
you have to get
if you change your physicality, it can change your voice. It's crazy. It's also very funny to watch. Like, watching the two of them recording their lines for South Park is very entertaining. It's almost as entertaining as watching the show itself.
I would say, Kaylin, if you haven't seen 7 Days to Air, watch that. You have seen it?
Yeah.
I'm probably gonna rewatch it for this month just so I have the mental context. There's also another interview with Trey Parker where he talks about kind of what we were talking about last week with the MPAA censoring him. There's a mini doc on, I think, Sam Raimi with a bunch of Trey Parker bits in it that I'm probably gonna try to excuse me, live burp on the podcast.
Take it.
We're going live with that burp.
Live burp on the podcast. Oh, look at the numbers going up. I have 37 people on TikTok. We got 400 people watching on Instagram because of that burp. That's a lie.
Why aren't we going live on TikTok? Why are we doing Instagram still?
I've got one person because I'm just trying to. It's an advertisement for the show. Once we all have accounts, maybe instead of doing Instagram, we'll just all go live on TikTok. Anyway,
let's go live on all of it. Let's have 3 things.
I
have unlimited data now. I can do anything.
I'd be down. He's a maniac.
Not neat. Wouldn't you need more than one phone to do that? I guess I have another phone.
I have 2 phones. I have 2 phones going right now.
That is psychotic.
Kaylin, you could actually, me and you could be going live in the same room right now. Anyway,
that would be wise.
But we'd only be hearing Madison. My wife comes on she messages me. I saw it after the podcast. She's like, I don't know if you know this, but on TikTok, I can only hear you.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah.
Whoops.
That's the viewers are missing out.
That's the problem. But I do have a thing. I do have a thing at the top of my video that says, "Come see the full conversation over at Instaman."
Instaman.
So let's move on to the synopsis. I have
just read it off of the wiki.
I'm gonna it's it'll probably give us it's only I'm gonna see how this flows because I think it's too short when we just do the description, but I'm gonna blast through the plot from Wikipedia. Okay.
Can we interrupt you as you do it?
I would prefer you didn't, because it's actually kind of long.
Has that ever stopped you before, Kalen?
So we begin the movie with a gruesome reenactment of what everybody thinks happens, but it turns out that it's just the I guess the lawyer or the prosecutor,
the crown attorney.
He's painting a picture in blood.
Yeah, in blood. So then during a break in the trial, Packer, who's the main character,
Can I just say I called it from the very beginning when I heard his name that they were going to make a
fudge. Yeah, that was a telegraphed joke. It was like, oh, fudge, and I was like,
yeah,
oh yeah.
Aha. Also, he's credited as Juan Schwartz, by the way. He is not credited as Trey Parker. He is credited as Juan Schwartz in both the beginning and end credits.
That's awesome. Nice. That's his film. That's his on-screen name.
Yeah.
During a break in the trial, Packer is enticed by journalist Polly Pry to tell his side of the story, which he proceeds to do via flashbacks. And it opens up with him, and they sing the great song Spadoinkle. And you know what's great about Spadoinkle? The little beginning part, the da 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 that they play constantly. That's Steve's nodding his head because he knows what I'm about to say. But at the end of every South Park episode, you see a plane flying. I think it's Trey Parker's production company, and then it goes da 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 bum bum.
Ah, sweet.
And when I saw this movie,
that's why you recognize it.
In 2006, my head exploded. I was like, you could do that. But it's really clever.
When he does the little lip quiver at the end, a spadoinkle day or whatever.
Yeah, that was the one I laughed. I went when I saw that, and that was the only time I laughed out loud for the whole movie. But that's not to say I didn't find things funny. I'm just like, that was the one thing that like got a chuckle out of me, a sensible chuckle, if you will.
Sensible chuckle. So let me set the scene for you guys. It's 1873. It's the gold rush. Packer was a part of a group of miners in Bingham Canyon, Utah, and they hear of new prospects in Breckenridge. Together, the small group decide to travel into the Colorado Territory to stake a claim. The journey gets off to the wrong foot when the original Lucky Larry dies from a lightning strike, and Packer's nominated as the replacement since he knew about the area since he's from there. And in my head, I'm going, did he just travel all the way from Colorado to immediately turn around and go back to Colorado? He and Leanne set off. Leanne is his horse that we talked about previously. He and Leanne set off.
The reveal.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the song Spadoinkle reprise. That's why they put it in here, because the name of the song. And then he starts singing about the horse. He estimates it to be a 3-week journey with the party of 5 miners. Shannon Wilson Bell, a Mormon priest. James Humphrey. Immediately they start talking about Mormonism in this, which is a common theme with Trey Parker specifically.
Was he Mormon?
He must have been raised Mormon or something. Or just finds it fascinating.
It could also be that I think that he, in interviews on late night and stuff, has said that he finds Mormonism to be fascinating. I don't think he's ever said he is a Mormon.
Okay. There's a lot of people who were raised Mormon turn around and create content or bash it super
because
hard.
It's great. It's not crazy. I'm sorry. I'm not going to alienate anybody, but it seems like out of this world kind of stuff. Seems, you're like, what? People believe this? But that's all religion to me.
Almost as ridiculous as Scientology.
The only thing I know about it is you get multiple wives. So I can understand why
some Mormons don't even observe that though. There's a great episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm where Larry meets a Mormon. He's like, so multiple wives, and he's like,
no, we don't do that.
Well, what's the point? And he's like, well, I met her at the church, and I have a nice
the wife. Long underwear.
Yeah,
you think it's comfortable or something?
James Humphrey, who is he's kind of the foil for the whole thing. Frank Miller.
Wasn't Humphrey Matt Stone?
Oh yes, you're right. Frank Miller is the cynical butcher who reluctantly joins.
Creator of Sin City.
Yep.
And
did you notice that his character for some reason just had like a pillow under his sweater? Like, what was the point of?
They just wanted to make him look like he was like a drunk, or because he's like drinking all the time.
Right? Oh
so
yeah,
he just has like a big gut. That's what I chopped it up to, I guess.
I thought he was going to be the bad guy.
He's the
He
more of
kind of
just a
was.
foil.
Yeah, he's there. There's not really any good guy in this movie or bad guy. It's
The bad
just
guys-
everybody's idiots.
The
whole
bad
movie's
guy's
dumb people.
Frenchie and his squad of them.
But even they're not
He's
that
not
bad.
French.
At the end of the day, he's like, "Listen, this horse likes me better. I'll give you $8 for her."
George Noon, that's Squeak. He's supposed to be a teenager, I'm learning right now. Teenager
why
hoping
he's
to
so
meet
horny?
women in Breckenridge, and
But they're not. These guys are like not that far from actual being teenagers when they made this movie. Like they're in their
but if
early
they're gonna
20s.
put teenager in the wiki, I think he's supposed to be 16, and that dude is not
just
visually
little,
not.
yeah.
And Israel Swan, an optimist, and we know where his optimism gets
hilarious.
him. So 4 weeks later, while attempting to visit Provo for supplies, they become convinced they are lost. An attempt to ask a local for directions to Provo proves unsuccessful, with the local warning them of impending doom awaiting them in the mountains. That's the thing that Trey Parker and Matt Stone would
Who has
use.
the same facial hair that he adopts later when he's in his fake disguise as interesting fact, the real Alfred Packer, when he was finally discovered, found, because this is based on a true story, his alias that he was using was Juan Schwartz, the name that Trey Parker adopted. Yeah, that's what he that's why he used it.
Oh, that's why he used it. Nice.
Yeah.
So
I don't know if it's interesting, but
I think that's pretty interesting.
I did some research a little bit.
You can only interrupt me if you have done the research.
I'm usually the research guy.
Finally arriving at the frontier post in Provo, they run into a group of 3 fur trappers bound for Seguche. O.D. Lautenheiser, Preston Nutter, and their diminutive leader, Jean Frenchie Cabazon. The trappers despise the miners, whom they contemptuously call diggers, yet seem to like Packer's
Very
Arabian
heavy
horse.
with that, with the diggers.
I don't
too.
think that was a mistake. I think they were trying to be, edgy. They liked Packer's Arabian horse, telling Packer that she's a trapper horse. Making camp, Packer and company reveal their goals for traveling to each other. That's when they sing "That's All I'm Asking For," which is, I like that song. I like the kind of dance choreography. The next day, Packer wakes up to discover his horse and friend Leanne is missing, which of course is probably an allegory for him finding out that his ex-girlfriend is a cheater. After Bell wounds his leg in a bear trap, the men attempt to cross the Green River near the Utah border. The group asks Packer if there's any other big rivers that they will have to cross, to which he replies no, just to Colorado. They camp out for the night after the crossing, which is a great scene. I thought that the distance shots, and they all just run right in and immediately.
Yeah.
It's like, I hope the river doesn't take us. Yeah, I hope the river doesn't take us. And it's like, it'll be fine. We'll just, and he throws the rock. When he throws, like, what were you trying to do there? He's like, I don't know
how deep it was.
Yeah. What was the point of that?
Obviously.
No, he doesn't even say anything. He's like, I was just trying to never mind. But also that part of the movie led to potential hypothermia, and also several people were almost actually swept away by the river
in real life, or while they were filming it.
Yeah, while they were filming it, they had people who almost literally died. Like, this movie has so many crazy things. Like, I'll talk about it later, but there's a lot of things that was like, this is not a safe movie set.
Okay, so this is the part where while they're camping, he sings the song about Leanne that sounds like Chicago. If you've ever listened to Chicago, it sounds like a Chicago song.
I think Richard Gere was in it.
Eventually, no, Chicago, the band,
Oh.
But they're later Peter Cetera stuff from the 80s. It's like, I want to have you near me. I want to have you hear me say.
Walking down the street one day, I saw a man with a golden watch.
Not
and anybody know what
70s
time it
Peter
is?
Cetera.
Yeah.
Eventually, after a disastrous crossing of the Colorado River, The Packer party is spotted by 2 Nihonjin Indians. Okay.
Inappropriate.
No, this was amazing. This was.
It's
one
funny
of the
that they don't ever
weirdest-
explain it, and they don't know anything, so they just assume they're actually like
Exactly.
indigenous people. Yeah.
Exactly. And I think this joke holds up. It's edgy enough that you go, is this okay? But I don't see any problem with it. I don't think that I think that it's sort of portraying how confused by indigenous people in the Wild West were, you know, anyway. So they may as well have been like Japanese people. They're played the whole group of indigenous people are played by Japanese people, but they have on like indigenous headdresses but then they're like
But they also are kind of like, no, we're Indians. See, we have teepees. Look, so many teepees.
I think it was
kind of funny.
It was like funny. Doing a stereotype, but then also like, kind of like stereotyping the stereotype almost.
It feels like a Mel Brooks joke, honestly.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a stereotype. It's just like if this was a movie that was appropriately telling this story, they would have cast actual indigenous people. But within the context of this movie, they're like, let's just cast a bunch of Japanese people. And I was wondering, I'm like, I know that Trey Parker speaks Japanese and that he like has a lot of and he has like a lot of like people in his life who are Japanese, and I wondered like maybe he was taking Japanese at this time, so he was meeting like a Japanese like tutor and stuff, and he's like, why don't we just cast them
why don't we get
whereas he has like no
Japanese
connections with
from my
like
university.
Native American people, so he's like, no, we're gonna just make them all Japanese.
And it's a great visual gag. It's a great visual gag. It's a great audio gag because they're speaking Japanese and they're like, they must be speaking Nihonjin.
Which even, like, I could speak Native American. Hold on. He's like, he says that he's mad at you. Yeah.
And his name is Tom.
Yeah.
So obviously played by a Japanese actress and speaking Japanese. They are taken back to the tribe's encampment near Delta, where the chief warns them of a winter storm, allowing them to wait it out with the tribe. Packer's party also find the trappers camping out with the tribe, who proceeded to brag about their lives in song and argue over the key of said song before a small altercation breaks out.
That was a funny.
That was a good little moment too, where they sort of break the fourth wall and just start yelling at each other about the notes they were trying to sing.
Oh, that's more of like a 13th high, or I don't remember it.
Yeah, that was a very deep cut joke, which is like anybody who's not familiar with like reading music would not. They wouldn't know what they're talking about, but they would understand what the joke is getting at. But if you are like a musical nerd, I assume you're going to be sitting there being like,
which I think Trey Parker famously is. I think, I was talking about last week, how if there was no South Park, they would have made something. It would probably be a series of musicals, like theater musicals, like in.
They have
exactly
have done that
exactly. And I wanted to bring up too that they haven't actually made their own. Trey Parker and Matt Stone haven't made their own like live production of this. But it is sold to people to perform. And when I first moved here, they actually had people. There's this university that travels and performs it. I had an opportunity.
I could see this being more entertaining as a stage play than as a
they
movie,
cut a lot of they trim a lot of the fat that the movie has. They probably have it cut down to like 70 minutes, like I was saying, with an intermission.
What if they performed it on a stage and videotaped that? How, like, do you think that would be potentially?
Well, that's what Hamilton on Disney Plus is, and I'm wondering when Book of Mormon is.
There is something
right,
very special and different about seeing a stage play live than seeing it, on your television.
That's true, yeah.
Like Les Miserables.
It's not to say that it's not going to be as interesting or it's not going to be uninteresting. It's just going to be, there's something about being there and knowing that everything is happening right in front of you, and there's no cuts, and they don't zoom in on a specific thing for you to pay attention to. You can look around at the whole stage and see, sometimes there'll be like, like a background actor doing something that's extremely entertaining that you won't see because they have to focus in on Alexander Hamilton while there's one guy doing something crazy on a scaffolding prop at the top, and you're like, look at that guy, he's doing something crazy up there.
Les Mis specifically, I went and saw it live, and then I came home and was like, that was awesome. I can't get Master of the House out of my head. And I put the movie on and I basically made it to Master of the House and was like, oh, I don't want to watch any more of this.
I think the closest thing that I can compare it to would be like, I don't have any interest in watching musical stage performances on my TV, but I do enjoy going to them in the same way that I don't really like watching hockey, but I do enjoy going to a hockey game and watching hockey, or a baseball game or a football game. There's something more energizing.
More involved
almost. Yeah, you feel like you're part of it almost. Like you feel like you're there and you're contributing something by clapping and cheering.
There is definitely an energy.
I'm a huge fan of music. Yeah. I'm a huge fan of like music in general, and I hate live albums, like recorded live albums, and I don't really like concert videos because it takes this. It take you're seeing it simulated. And you don't get that feeling of being able to feel the music, and
it's almost like you feel like you're being tricked, like a sitcom, like they're telling you when to clap, and you're like, I'll clap when I want to clap.
I do.
When you're there, you do want to cheer and clap, but when you're at home, you're like, stop cheering and clapping. I want to hear these guys talk.
I've never been a fan of hockey my whole life, but the few hockey games I've been to, you know, you get drunk, you eat garbage food. You
I mean, like even just going to a couple of my friends when I was younger played in like, you know, pretty intense leagues, and I would go watch their games and I would feel the same, not as crazy as when you go to like a professional game, but like I would still feel like this is more interesting to me than hockey has ever been, because I have no interest in it whatsoever. But being here and like watching people moving and you know, performing physical feats that I'm incapable of it's impressive. And you feel, again, you feel like you're part of it rather than being an observer. You feel like you're contributing something.
So speaking of everybody being part of it, the Trappers sing their Trapper song.
Like and it's great.
Did you say let's sing it?
I like when he humps the wall and it falls over.
Yeah.
No, I don't. I didn't like that. I thought it was dumb.
I thought that was a waste of bricks, personally. The story returns to the present, so we kind of get to the end of like Act 1, I would say. The story returns to the present, where Packer is sentenced to death by hanging, and his execution to occur in Lake City. That night alone, Polly muses over the case and Packer's testimony, and she reveals her growing affection for him through song, This Side of Me. The next day, Polly visits Packer once again in prison, where he continues his story. That's where she sings on the stairs, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yes.
I zoned out so hard because I don't think there was any jokes in that song. It was just a ballad about how much she loves Packer, right?
I'm sure there was some sort of like, there must have been something in there. I don't think it was just a straight up like love
I think
song.
it might have been a heartfelt song.
All right.
Do you not have it played in the background, Jason?
What?
Do you not have the movie played in the background this time?
No, I usually have.
Actually, you don't even have a background up.
Dude, I'm very tired.
You're so out of it.
I locked my fucking head. I locked my headset in a drawer that has like a kid safety lock on it, and I was fighting with that until like 2 minutes after 9, just trying to fucking get open. So when I turned everything on, I was just like, let's just get to her. So the men set out back into the wilderness. Packer learns the trappers have already left, persuading them to leave under the guise. Persuading them to leave under the guise of there being a break in the storm. The group begins to suspect that Packer is really only interested in following the trappers to find his horse, and Bell's temper begins to shorten as his wound from the bear trap becomes infected and develops gangrene. They soldier on until they encounter a foreboding Cyclops, a tall mountain man with a wounded pus-spurting eye, while unwittingly trying to steal one of his sheep for sustenance.
Was that guy one of the trappers? He kind of looked like one of the trappers.
No, he's just the mountain man. He's the Cyclops they've been warning him about.
No, but I don't mean like he was one of the trappers. I mean the guy that played one of the trappers. Did he also play that guy?
Oh, I think it might have been one of the guys. Yeah, I think it might have been the trapper with the high cheekbones. Looked like
the tall, hot one. Yeah. That's what I called him when I was watching it.
Vaguely Asian.
He wasn't Asian. He just had like
vaguely.
Okay.
The Cyclops recalls how a Union soldier shot out his eye in the Civil War and becomes enraged when he realizes Packer's men are not Southern boys. After they cannot finish the lyrics to Dixie, causing them to flee.
Famously racist song.
Yeah. I liked that scene because they're like, yeah, we're Southern, I guess. And then he sings Dixie at them, and then they don't sing the next line, which was probably where it starts to get racist. And then they flee.
You stupid Yank.
Yeah. They escape, and the badly frostbitten Swan tries to cheer everybody up with a song about building a snowman, only for Miller to destroy Swan's snowman with a pickaxe. Let's build a snowman. Oh, fuck, man. I love that. This is such a dumb gag, but like, right? He finds the snow and he's throwing snowballs at them. He just finds a little bit of snow. And then as soon as they're in full snow, he's like, do you guys want to build a snowman? And everybody's like, what?
I liked it.
I think he had hypothermia. They soon run out of food.
That does drive you crazy, by the way.
Exactly. Resorting to eating their shoes as they become lost in the snow-covered Rocky Mountains. Out of frustration, Bell shoots Swan in the head because he does not appreciate Swan's Pollyanna-esque perspective on their predicament. Let's build a snowman reprise then plays. And that's what gets him ultimately murdered. The men discuss their dire situation that night over the fire.
That guy's the bad guy. That's the guy I'm saying is the bad guy in this movie.
Bell?
I
or
think
Swan?
So.
Bell.
No, not Swan. The guy who shot him, Bell, I think.
Yeah.
The church guy. The church.
Here's an easier way. The guy who gets like stabbed 100 times and doesn't die and then comes
Bell.
back later.
He's like the final boss.
Yeah. Boss, yeah.
They decide to consume the body. The men discuss their dire situation that night over the fire, speaking of the cannibalism that the Donner Party had to resort to in California. They decide to consume the body of the dead companion, but
they
not
try
the blood.
to eat their shoes and boots first.
Yeah, I mentioned that.
He said that
my
already.
bad.
As Miller cuts up Swan's body and only Bell refuses to partake in the cannibalism. Packer then has a ballet.
I just got to intervene right quick.
Okay.
Humphreys didn't want to eat the boot because that's where you put your foot in. But then he ate the foot.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't notice that.
I like that joke.
That I also noticed that, and it's because I've been watching a lot of Brooklyn Nine-Nine recently, and like Jake Peralta gets put in jail, and his best friend is a cannibal.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Listen, I only eat forearms and butts mostly. I ate a foot once, and it was nasty."
Yeah, played by what's his face?
The guy from SNL. He's in a million things. Yeah.
The ladies' man.
Yeah, I can't remember.
I know.
Oh fuck! Damn it! We'll come back to it.
No, I'm just gonna look it up because it's gonna drive us.
Do it now.
Because it's we should.
He's the principal in Mean Girls. And he has a broken arm.
He's also the principal.
He plays a good principal. He should be a principal in everything. Like every time they need a principal in a comedy. Tim Meadows, yeah.
Tim Meadows. Sorry, Tim Meadows. I know you're an avid watcher of the show. We're huge fans here at. Hey, did you see this one? Let's see. Yada yada yada. Oh, so this is just what happens at the end. So Packer convinces them for just one more chance at a scouting trip up to the ridge. When he comes back, everybody's dead except for Bell, who comes back with like sticks. Oh, sorry, I skipped ahead a whole scene. So Packer then has the ballet-inspired nightmare involving himself, Leanne, and Cabazon.
I almost thought it was Trey Parker for a second.
It is, but they just do that great gag where they like cut back and it's clearly not him.
But that's the thing. On my first watch, I was like, holy shit, he's actually pretty good at ballet. And part of me legitimately thought it might have actually been him, and he actually just has some interesting artistic sides to him. But then I did see closer was a different guy for those like the really good ones, like the really good ballet scenes.
Yeah, it's clearly not him.
And the obvious, like a couple of like obvious change outs too. Like
ballet fighting though, I was actually kind of psyched. Like when they were doing their little dances to each other, I'm like, oh damn, they're getting down.
Yeah, that I liked that scene. It's really trippy. There's another part where the trappers are singing, and the tall trapper with the mohawk, they do like a weird color correction, so all the leaves are like purple. And his little moment I thought was fun.
I don't remember.
After a few more days, the party loses hope, which leads to them sacrificing one of their own. That's all I'm asking for. A reprise happens then. Packer convinces them for one more chance of the scouting trip. That's when he goes up to the ridge one more time. When he returns, Bell has killed the others, claiming they plan to kill and eat him after Packer left. Packer is forced to then kill Bell after threatening to turn him in, realizing he has gone insane. He is then forced to cannibalize the others and wait out the rest of winter. Arriving in Saguchi sometime later, Packer finds Leanne, who has taken to Cabazon, unsettling Packer. The sheriff of Saguchi, am I saying that right? Sagouch or Saguchi?
I think it was Sagouchi.
Or Sagouchi.
Saguchi. No, Saguchi. It might be Saguchi.
The sheriff of Saguchi, suspicious of Packer arriving without the rest of the party, eventually finds out the fate of the other members and attempts to arrest Packer for cannibalism at the saloon. A bar fight between Packer and the trappers and some of the bar patrons, including the Cyclops from earlier, occurs, which Packer wins after brutally attacking Cabazon's groin using fighting techniques he learned from the Nihon Jin chief, leaving Cabazon incapacitated with a high-pitched voice. Following this, Packer attempts to flee to Wyoming, only to later be arrested there and brought back to Colorado to await judgment. On the day of Packer's execution in Lake City, the town breaks into song celebrating Packer's impending death. Hang the Bastard is the name of the song. However, he is saved at the last minute by Polly, who arrives on the scene with Leanne. Polly reveals that Packer had gotten a stay of execution from the governor, stating that he could not be convicted of the state crime since Colorado was not a state at the time of the incident. Meanwhile, Cabazon, whose voice is still high-pitched and wants revenge against Packer for their fight in Saguchi, states the townfolk came to see bloodshed and tries to trigger the gallows.
The choreography of the townfolk's dancing could have been a little tighter.
But
also, according to the sheriff's department of said city, it's pronounced Sawatch.
Oh, Sawatch. I thought the fight choreography, the saloon fight, was really well done because Trey Parker was doing the kind of fight choreography you'd see in an old Western.
When really he lands on the piano, that matches up with the soundtrack.
And him getting punched and going back and forth. It looked really crisp. I thought it was really visually well done. It was probably my favorite part of the movie, ultimately. So yeah, Sawatch states the townfolk came to see bloodshed and tries to trigger the gallows. The Neonjin chief saves Packer by cutting his rope with the katana before beheading Cabazon, satisfying the crowd's bloodlust. That's very South Park. That whole sequence.
Yeah, where he says, "You're a very bad man," and then just
yeah.
I think he says you're a very bad person.
Yeah,
which is even worse, I guess, somehow.
Packer, seeing that Polly brought back Leanne, realizes he doesn't need her anymore and chooses Polly, much to the excitement of the chief, who takes off after Leanne with his katana. And the two kiss, only to be framed by still alive but badly maimed Belle. And
that reminded me of Friday the 13th or whatever.
That's what they were doing.
Yeah.
They kind of sped to that finish. They didn't really telegraph that Belle was going to be the killer or the person that did the massacre well enough, but they did.
Well, that's also because they don't know the truth, right?
That's true.
In terms of the actual story. And why would he have hid with a fake name for so long before he was captured if he knew what happened? I think that this story took some liberties, I think.
You know what they say about sunrises?
No. Oh yeah, that one. That joke.
He goes like
that sheriff
that
sheriff leaves for a few hours and comes back and he's absolutely fucking plastered. And he's was he just thinking about it? And he's like, "I found them bodies up there. He's a cannibal."
I guess so.
He had a full bottle of booze, and I wanted that to splash way more than it did. He had it and he was swinging it around, and I think they expected it to splash way more when they were filming it, but it didn't really.
Maybe
it didn't pop on camera. It was splashing a little bit, but I think they wanted it to be getting. But they should have had cutaways of people getting a ton of liquor all over them.
That actually sounds pretty funny. Yeah.
That's how the joke would go now after being,
Well, I think that's what they wanted the
filmmakers
joke
for
to
years and
be,
years.
like, was because he was swinging it around so much and there was stuff coming out of it. I think what they wanted was like more
Imagine if they
liquid to be
redid
going.
it.
Yeah.
I don't know. They'd have to redo it and like restructure it and like rewrite it from the ground up.
Add a little oomph, but keep a lot of what makes it good.
Yeah, I think I mentioned this in last week's episode that a lot of Trey Parker, Matt Stone humor kind of disgusts me. Like it makes me feel like ugh. And I was expecting a lot of that in this, and it's just surprisingly not too many moments where I was like, ugh.
I made a note.
I hated the.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say I hated the eye pus. Like the eye pus was disgusting.
That was funny.
I was like, it wasn't funny. It was disgusting.
I made a note that was kind of
vile.
Like, besides that, and besides the opening scene, the
opening scene was hilarious.
The comedy was very like sensible. It was very like.
Oh, I can deal with the opening, the violence in the opening scene. That's the kind of violence or like gore that I'm like, oh yes, I can deal with that because it's so like over the top. But when it's like the pus squirting out and like how like flesh colored it was, I was like, that's accurate looking pus. Ugh.
It did look very pussy.
And because it's something that like you don't really see in anything else, right? Like you watch a couple of Saw movies and you're like, yeah, I'm good with any kind of gore. And like I brought up the Evil Dead earlier, and the Evil Dead is like extremely vile and gory as well, but it's, it has like a certain level of unrealism to it that you can disconnect yourself with. But it reminds me of like the scene in Basketball where he's drinking like out of the liposuction bag, where I'm like, oh my god, like it's just so gross. Like it's like another level.
I can't wait to do Basketball.
Oh, it's fat siphon from Marlon Brando's ass. Oh, why do I keep drinking it?
Oh man, the scene in this movie was like, oh, I don't want butt. Well, what do you want? Well, I don't know. I don't want.
Why are you stabbing into the butt? Yeah, stop. I don't. Just somewhere else. Yeah.
The gag with the bear trap was like more subdued than they probably wanted it. It seemed like it was an off-site visual gag where you hear it go and then close like 3 times. But then the payoff of his gangrene was only like one little shot later, and I guess
I thought it was going to be.
I thought it was going to be a whole like gross like moment where he loses his leg or something.
Right.
I've seen this movie.
Have the budget.
Or it would have like spread through his whole body and then made him go crazy. Like that's what made him go crazy, kind of thing. Instead of him just getting really annoyed, being like, "I'm done with this shit." I think that you creatively you could take a couple of sidewinders in terms of like what they didn't choose to do, but like this movie again was extended off of the plot of a trailer and a story that doesn't really have a conclusive ending about a man who maybe ate a bunch of people, and he definitely did.
He did.
Like if you read the actual historical like documentation, you're like, that guy probably actually ate human beings.
Yeah, but only after they died on their own.
Maybe, but maybe not. You don't know.
I don't know. The thing that I kept thinking about.
Just wait. He's telling his side. Maybe he is lying.
He tricked poor Polly into how people get like Stockholm syndrome into believing that the serial killer is right all the time.
Well, she from the minute she goes into that police station, I'm like, this is like one of those women who like fall in love with like Jeffrey Dahmer and want to get married to him or some shit. And she's
Ted
like,
Bundy had multiple girlfriends.
He's changed.
Nice.
I can fix him, kind of thing. And you're like, ugh. Yeah.
Or the kind of women that like have male relationships with people in prison because they're into that. I'm
sure there are also men who do that, and also like men who do that to women and men who do that to other men. And,
Other men, yeah.
We're not
There's
generalizing.
no
I know,
groups
that's true.
included.
That's true.
We
You
all
just-
like to
There's
fuck.
no limitation on
The
insane
trope.
people.
The trope from 90s television specifically
Yes, exactly.
is a woman falls in love with a man who's in prison.
I know a few people in real life who have been like, yeah, but he's like really hot though. And I'm like,
Yep.
And like about not one in particular serial killer. I'm like, I think that you need to like evaluate what you're thinking right now.
Get the spray bottle. You're too hot.
Isn't there one guy that's viral and he's like called Criminal or something like that? He has like crazy cool, like crazy eyes.
Maybe, I don't know.
What? I don't
There's
know.
like a guy, I'm pretty sure he's famous for being a good looking.
Yeah,
Like,
Ted
There's
Bundy.
lots of them. Ted Bundy.
Ted
Oh
Bundy
yeah.
specifically.
I mean,
Jeffrey
it's probably less
Dahmer.
bad,
Jeffrey
like, there's
Dahmer.
a recent one.
What was
There's
his
a
name?
recent one.
Romero or Ricardo or Richard Ricardo or Richard Romero. Like he was like
Yeah.
very like a very attractive looking person, but his like teeth are all fucked up. So as soon as he opens
I
his mouth,
saw
it's
that
like,
documentary. That shit was
Yeah.
scary.
There's
Yeah,
a Ted
he was
Bundy
insane.
movie starring Zac Efron that's really fucking good.
It
Where
actually was pretty good, yeah.
you don't know if he's the villain, and they never really say his name until like the halfway through the movie. So if you don't know what the movie's about, you're even kind of like on his side until you're really just not. And then the Ted Bundy, I watched the Ted Bundy tapes like right after. And
With the real.
yeah, and I was like, oh, this guy
like,
thinks that
but
the
like
devil
Ted
lives
Bundy was
inside
also
of him.
like such a crazy sociopath that he was even able to like charm other men that were like dictated and like meant to watch over him, and like because
Charismatic.
he escaped
was
jail multiple times.
Yeah, he was his own lawyer, right? Like he acted as his own lawyer, so he had, because he was doing that, he had access to the libraries and stuff, and he'd be like, I need privacy or whatever, and then he would just like escape out a window. Like instead of working on his case, he's like,
bye.
I'm gonna get the fuck out of here. Yeah. Which is it's crazy. Yeah. Oh my god.
I wanted to
also frightening.
Bring up. It is very frightening.
I think they
serial
stepped
killers,
up their
man.
security grounds.
Is he dead now? I don't even know if Ted Bundy's still in prison or
I
dead.
think he's still alive. Let me just double check for you here. Ted Bundy alive?
Bed
Question mark?
Bundy.
Alive?
Dead.
Question mark?
Yeah, he's still. Oh wait, no, he died in. Wait, what?
Oh,
He died in 1989.
Oh, did he click
Did
himself?
he get
or
execution?
did he get executed, or did he get prison?
He wasn't even that old.
Not good.
Holy
Prison
moly.
dead? Did he get shivved to death?
How did he die?
Did he try and hide his shiv in his prison wallet?
What?
Oh, there's a
watched-
gag we didn't talk about that I'm reminded of from Steve's on the Zoom call. He has a drawn picture. The guy, the tall, sexy guy, as Steve called him, I would call him sexy too. His hat has googly eyes on it, and it's fucking so dumb. But that made me laugh out loud.
Oh yeah, the nice hat or whatever.
Can you guys conjure in your mind what the melody to Let's Build a Snowman is?
No.
I'm not
when
saying
it comes on, yes, but
I'm
to
not
try and do it now.
Obviously, I'm not saying Disney Pixar jacked that song for "Do You Want to Build a Snowman?" from
I
Frozen.
thought that was Papa, Can You Hear Me?
Papa,
Do you want to build a snowman? Do you want to build a snowman? Papa, can you hear me?
Sort of.
Papa, can you hear me?
It's on the wrong phone. I thought of a jingle for us.
Hey, did you see this one?
Hey, you freaking see this?
That sounded pretty good.
You freaking see that?
Hey, you freaking see
Hey,
that?
did you see this one?
There, Kayla,
Hey,
we did
did you
your
see this
reenacted
one?
musical number.
Yeah.
Hey, did you see this one? Hey,
did you see this one?
Hey, did you see this one?
We talked about Fudge Packer. We talked about the indigenous people that spoke Japanese. There's some parts where they do wide shots of the Japanese guys getting back on their horses to ride away, and it's obviously Trey Parker doing his Japanese voice from hey, let's go kick ass from that episode of South Park.
Well, he's also
Let's
speaking
fight in
real
love.
Japanese.
Yeah. And that's what blows your mind, because it's South Park. He absolutely could just do a mild, like fucking Cartman in the South Park movie, you know.
I assume that if you can speak a language properly, like if you know how to speak it fluently, you can also then at that point
gives you a pass.
No. I'm not saying it gives you a pass. What I'm saying is that you can backwards engineer a way to do the accent better because you now understand how to speak a language with a proper inflection and cadence that you would
like
when
French,
speaking that language fluently. You'd be
French
able to.
People are white, so we can go hon hon. I am from France, but we can't do the Japanese version of that because they're.
Because that's not what I'm saying, but
no, but I'm saying that he's allowed to do it because he speaks fluent Japanese.
No, but
I'm not saying that anyone's allowed to do anything. That's not what I'm
accent
saying. I'm saying that it's easier for you to backwards engineer an accent. Like you can understand the accent better because you also know how to speak the language from.
Hello, I
beginning
am
to end.
American. Am I allowed to do that as a Canadian?
Yeah,
Hello.
You sound like Benjamin Cumberbatch.
I'll use my credit. Oh, fucking Benedict Cumberbatch's American accent is so dumb. It's like, hello, I am
need
from
to learn
Manhattan.
how to use my chakras.
I am from Manhattan, New York City.
I'm a doctor, a very successful doctor.
A very successful doctor from New York, New York.
It looks like we've fallen into some sort of multiverse of madness.
That's not what he sounds like.
He absolutely does. Listen to him when he talks. He over
No, his voice is lower than that. He's like, I can't do it, but
his voice is like,
I'm Benedict Cumberbatch.
It's me, Benedict Cumberbatch over here.
Here. I am from Brooklyn, New York. Over here.
I come from
Brooklyn. That's better. You're getting better.
Hey, what's a coming to go?
Anyway, I don't think that I think that doing offensive accents are offensive, yes, but I also think that if you speak the language
unless you
fluently,
are white and they are also white,
you'll be okay. I think that we somehow got into when's it okay to do an offensive accent? That's not what I was trying to say. I was trying to say it's easier for you to construct an accent in English doing the language that you're attempting to imitate if you understand the language inside and out.
Like when he speaks Japanese, he can put the accent on it because he knows how to speak it.
Because he knows how to speak Japanese.
That's what
apparently I can't even speak
What accent
English.
was that, Steve?
Yeah, that was me trying to just talk normally, and I was getting too excited, and my brain went faster than my mouth. So anyway, yeah. I'm not saying that anybody has a free pass to do anything because they know how to speak the language. What I'm saying is that you can probably figure out how an accent works if you understand the language.
You heard it here first, folks. Steve says nobody's allowed to do anything. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we'll see you next week.
No touchy.
I wanted to talk about that ADR in this movie a little bit more.
Is that going to be a new segment called Steven's Sensitive Moment? It's Steve's Sensitive Moment.
The ADR in this movie, I think I have it. Well, speaking of
it's bad segments, is what I'm going to say.
Speaking of segments, my conspiracy corner for this week is when Trey Parker clearly does the ADR like he does for this is a bad example of it, but when the trapper starts singing and it's just Trey Parker singing like this, that's great. But I have a theory that specifically for when the Japanese dudes in that wide shot are just Trey Parker speaking Japanese, they just couldn't get them to come back to do the ADR for that particular shot. So I think there's probably a lot of instances in this movie where they're just like, we need to get this done. Let's just get somebody, get somebody to come over here and say these lines.
A lot of the time in moments like that, they cut the movie together and they realize that it's an uninteresting shot. It's boring, and they don't have a way to make it more interesting. And they're like, okay, so we need to add dialogue here, because otherwise it's just this boring shot where there's nobody talking to nobody talking to nobody talking. But we need the shot of them walking away, so we need to add some vocal performance here. We can't get the guys back to do it, so Trey, or it might not even have been like, we just don't want to pay them to come back, so let's just, Trey's like, I speak Japanese, I'll do it, and he just like,
one that was specifically stuck out like a sore thumb is when they're walking through the canyon and it just sounds like they've just turned up the reverb. it's like they're supposed to be in like a canyon, and it just sounds like a weird like artificial echo. And I was like, that's clever though. You don't want to have, the Foley work in this movie is surprisingly good. Like all the footprint, like there's a scene where they're walking towards the camera and it's like a nice day and the shadows are in the right place, but you can hear them walking through the grass, but it's clearly ADR'd over like the actual performance.
Oh, to do it. Yeah, gotcha.
But the grass,
I don't want to burst your bubble, Jason, but almost every sound effect in this movie is a stock sound effect that I've used before.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It wasn't a they
didn't have a
Foley,
they didn't have a Foley guy being like,
yeah,
like his hands in like high heels, like walking on.
We actually
wood
got
or
this
whatever.
sound by shooting a boot while hitting with a sledgehammer, and it mixed with a lion's roar.
Like Brent Burt from Lucas Sound, like.
We actually got
That's how we got the lightning.
We slowed down a lion's roar and punched a homeless man in the face to get the.
That's
sound
how
of
we
the
got
X-wing.
the noise for Tuscan Raiders.
Yeah. We drowned a guy to get that. Yeah. So
speaking of the canyon, actually, another one of the near tragedies on this film set was they were shut down for several days because an avalanche almost killed a few of their sound people that were like working in a canyon, and they nearly got buried in snow.
That's crazy. I actually learned about a cryptid from around that area. That is, if you don't know what a cryptid is, basically like a Loch Ness monster is a cryptid.
It's like a digital currency that you use.
Nope. Good one though. There's a folklore cryptid that exists. Cryptid. Cryptozoology is the study of cryptids, and cryptids are like chupacabra,
Bigfoot, the Loch Ness monster,
the Yeti.
So it's some kind of creature that we don't know what the creature is.
Yeah, one that definitely does not exist.
Yeah, but it can be multiple
it's
creatures.
folklore. It's like the study of folklore. Yeah. It's like
I can't remember what this thing's called, but
can a message be cryptid?
That's encrypted.
Yeah, you're thinking of encrypted.
You're thinking of encryption. There's this goes to what Steve was saying about the avalanche or the rock slide or whatever. There's this one that like unsuspecting people will be walking by like a mountain and it would like slide down and like consume you and then go back up, which is dumb because that's just somebody experiencing somebody else get eaten like alive basically by a mudslide or an avalanche, and then trying to explain it to somebody that's never seen this phenomenon 1,000 years ago.
He's like, have you ever seen the movie Big Trouble in Little China? Yeah. Remember when that thing comes out and eats that guy? Yeah, it's like that. Oh,
it's like that. Only it's 1,000 years from now that happens. Anyway, one of my favorite jokes that made me laugh in this whole movie was when he's like, I'll cheer you up after he's pissing everybody off by making them travel for weeks and weeks, and he turns around and turns back with his mustache shaved. He goes, Abraham Lincoln. I laughed out loud. It's such a dumb, effective joke.
Yeah, that was good. That was a good one. But I was also kind of sourpussed for a lot of it, being like, am I gonna ever laugh? And then I saw that and I was like, that was good. That was funny.
I see where this is going comedically.
Yeah.
Don't worry, we'll hold down your episode, Jason.
Can you still hear me?
I'm not saying it's a bad one. I am saying it's a bad movie, but it's not really a movie. It's not a real movie. It's not a real movie.
This is almost like a high-end school project.
The high-end school project.
That is exactly what it is. Yeah.
But it's in the same vein as a like style parody.
Another interesting fact, if you'd like me to give it to you, is
give it to me raw, daddy.
All right, here we go.
An hour and 22 minutes.
So
actually, sorry, I could be wrong.
Almost the entirety of the crew and cast of this movie went to school with these guys, and they were given the budget by several different investors, and almost all of them failed their finals in film school because they were working on this movie and they didn't actually work on a real project. They worked on this instead. Yeah. So like like almost all of the cast and crew. So like the guy doing the camera, the guy doing the sound, like these people all failed because instead of working on their projects that they should have been working on, they were working on this movie. They were still in film school when they were making this, which is,
that sounds kind of.
But it also sounds like, a lot of people probably would look at this and be like, if they can do it, I can do it. And then they fail and they're like, now just like, I should have just kept, bloop, I should have kept doing my work bloop, in school.
Finish my project.
Yeah. Why didn't I just finish the school project instead of working on those guys' movies? But, I assume
yeah, but here's the thing. If you go and look at the IMDb for this movie, it is a lot of white, no profile pictures. Nobody really made it out of.
I thought you were going to say something else.
But what did you think I was going to say, buddy? Oh, a lot of white people in this movie? Well, there weren't a lot of people of color.
In Colorado? Are you serious?
There was one mountain that reminded me of South Park for some reason. There was one shot of a mountain, and I don't know why, but it just reminded me of South Park for some reason.
Like when they go
you
to
guys
Denver.
have that
There's
feeling?
a mountain at the beginning of South Park every episode, maybe?
Yeah.
It's right behind South Park.
Yeah.
Or when they go to when they actually go to Denver for the ski episode, and your pizza when you're supposed to French fry, you'll have a bad time.
Frenchy fry.
What did you just say?
If you pizza when you're supposed to French fry, you're gonna have a bad time.
What does that stand for?
It's when the ski instructor is teaching the kids how to ski.
Oh, these things.
Yeah, if you pizza when you're supposed to French fry, or if you French fry when you're supposed to pizza, you're gonna have a bad time.
Yeah, because this one stops you.
Yeah, I think Kenny fucking eats shit and dies.
For our viewers out there, if you want to slow down, you could do this, I guess, to slow down. You could go, but you could also go.
Yeah, but doing is an advanced maneuver.
All right, so for all you novices?
Nope, just novice is fine.
Novices is good as well.
Yeah,
but Navi, don't say that again.
No,
that
sounds like the little fairy that follows you around in Zelda.
Hey, I got something to say to you over here. It's me, Navi.
You fucking old bitch. Would have sold more copies if it talked like that. Even though it's sold, it's probably one of the highest.
It's like one of the most popular video games.
Is it on DVD? Yeah. I think I saw some copies on eBay or something.
Of Zelda, A Link of
Ocarina of Time.
Yeah, I'll do the Macarena right now.
The Macarena of Time.
The Macarena of Time. Nobody steal that. I'm gonna make a TikTok about it.
Yo, can I join you?
Yeah.
Has anyone ever made that joke before? Maybe not.
This might be a
Macarena
and world first, world
God.
premiere of the greatest joke.
I'll take.
Don't Google it.
That should be our goal for every episode: is to combine words until we figure out a joke that no one's made before.
But don't Google it or say it near Google Home or say it at all, because then somebody's going to steal it tomorrow.
Pretty sure it's too late. We're all
I yelled it into TikTok. So in 5 minutes from now, I'm going to turn TikTok on.
And it's going to be Macarena and Ocarina.
Everyone's going to be Macarena-ing.
I already discovered a person today that does little dances from Zelda games specifically.
You sent me that, and I very much appreciate it, because I was like, that is true. That is a very sexual dance, and I always enjoyed it.
The dance is. I watched that so many times because it's mesmerizing, like in a non-sexual way. Yeah. Let's see here. I've covered all of my notes for this week. Do we have any other segments that we like to do?
I'm not sure if they said Cannibal earlier, but I got an hour and 22 minutes. They didn't say the musical.
No, but he says you're a cannibal.
Well, they also retitled this movie. It was not named Cannibal the Musical originally, and then Troma changed it to Cannibal the Musical because they were worried that nobody would know who Alfred Packer was, so they decided.
I thought it was a joke. So you're saying it actually was a real person based off a real.
That's why they called it Alfred Packer the musical, because in that area of the United States, that story is relatively well known. Amongst locals. They'll be like, "Oh, you're gonna get Alfred Packard out there tonight if you don't be careful." It's
kind of like that house that we have with the black window.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the Halifax thing. Sorry, in
See,
Halifax.
exactly.
In Halifax, there's a house and it's got a black window, and everybody's like, "Oh, it's fucking haunted," but it just. Also,
they just paint it. They just
Maxwell's
paint it
Plum.
I
Maxwell's
don't think
Plum.
that's the same thing.
Galen, have you ever heard about
There's no
Maxwell's...
person who ate people involved with a black window.
Maxwell's Plum on Grafton. Is this even still there?
Maxwell's is still there, yeah.
Okay, so Maxwell's Plum used to be a brothel, like
Ooh.
in the early, like the 20s
Sign
or
me
whatever,
up.
or maybe late 1800s. And that shit, people who work there are like, this shit is so fucking haunted, you wouldn't even believe. Like, you can not even believe in ghosts, which I don't. And you'll be haunted. Like, you'll be haunted by it.
What do you mean? Why? What happened to you?
What do you mean? What happened to me? I just don't believe in ghosts. I don't believe in the paranormal.
Oh, okay. So wait, what happened at Maxwell's then?
It was a brothel.
So
he's just
that
telling
has
you
nothing to
that
do
that's
with death. That's sex. That's not death. That's sex.
Dude, do you know how? Dude, prostitutes in the 1800s. Dude, prostitutes were killed like daily.
Haven't you ever heard of Jacques the Ripper? Oh,
He'll murder the prostitute after midnight.
Ding ding dong.
I thought that was
They're coming to
London.
get you. I worked at a bar that was
Jack the Ripper may have also been a woman.
Whoa.
Perhaps a madam.
Yeah. I worked at a bar that was in a manor home in Toronto, like a very old house. And the GM for a while was like convinced it was haunted. And we were all like, all right. But he also was kind of a little bit weird. So we were like, he just wants it to be haunted. And then he started showing us like he's like, I came in today and there was a book on the floor off the bookshelf. And we're like, okay. He's like, and I checked the security footage and look at this. And then he showed us, and it was like a book, and it's like a book on the shelf, and it's like it would fall off.
A little bit?
No, it would come out a little bit, and then a little bit more,
and then a little bit more,
and then it would fall out. And then he showed us the fridge in the basement another day. Like, these are separate occasions.
Could you see a string?
Let me finish the fucking story, Kalen. And then he showed us one of the fridge in the basement, and like the fridge opened and all the compotes and like simple syrups and everything flew out of the fridge. And then I was like, can I see that again? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, one more time. And he was like, yeah. And I was like, can you zoom in and enhance right there? He's like, what do you mean? And then I was like, you don't need to. And then I looked and I could see a hand like pulling and he just like stayed late and like staged fucking
and
haunting.
Destroyed all that product.
You're insane. Yeah, I'm like, I had to clean that up, man. Fucking asshole. Like, I had to clean up a bunch of simple syrups that's going to break their fucking neck in the prep kitchen, and you're just sitting here being like, spooky ghosts.
Spooky.
I'm gonna make everybody think this place is haunted.
Have you ever seen a ghost? Welcome to our Hey, did you see Ghosts cast? Have you guys ever seen a ghost or a cannibal?
But to answer your question earlier, Kalen, about the string, there was like a weird sort of shimmer, and I was like, that looks like a string, maybe. And like nobody said anything.
Fishing line.
Yeah, nobody said anything, and I didn't want to be the only, because there was like 4 of us around him being like, look at the book.
That sounds like the kind of thing I would run my mouth at.
I know, but also I was trying to like step up and like, I'm like, maybe I could just take his job. If I like get to a point, I could get to like the actual general manager position above him and be like, this guy's insane. He's like trying to convince us all this place is haunted. Look at this fishing string video and his hand in the.
You might be right to butter up the higher ups. He brought
over this liter of milk, and he was like, look, this milk's spoiled overnight. But we checked the camera, and he just put it behind a radiator for 3 weeks. So it's spoiled spontaneously.
Yeah. One time I drank a lot of chocolate milk.
That's why your bowels are haunted.
Yeah, like your story from the weekend where you're like, I ate too many chicken wings, guys.
Oh my God. I did.
There's a ghost inside my lower intestines. It's called too much ghost peppers. Whoa.
Whoa. Well, guys.
Have you guys ever been drunk off of food?
Yes. I've been to the Mandarin buffet.
I'm very susceptible to turkey. So you know how like people fall asleep when they eat too much turkey?
Itis. They get the itis.
No.
I don't know if we can
What
say
is that
itis.
a faux pas? Can we not say itis anymore?
I think Boondocks made it so we can't say that.
You're not allowed.
What?
I think so.
That's also probably where you heard it.
That is where I heard it from.
Yeah.
I think it's a people. Anyway, I don't think it's white people fair to say
also
that
the turkey has a certain chemical reaction within my body.
It's called tryptophan, and it's mostly a myth, but I'm curious to hear what you have to say.
Yes, I know that it's mostly a myth, but it's not apparently for me, because when I eat turkey, I literally one time fell asleep at the table. Like while I was sitting at the table, I fell asleep. And this isn't like I was also drinking red wine and like ensuring that I was doing all the things that would make you fall asleep. I just fell asleep at the table.
Was the heat turned up?
Were you hungover?
It was pretty warm, yeah. It could have been that I was too. I don't just fall asleep. I'm not like narcoleptic. I don't just fall asleep randomly.
Hey, I know, but sometimes if all the what's the word I'm looking for?
Ingredients.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll tell you, this afternoon when I was trying to watch this fucking boring ass movie, like the boring part, the funny parts.
I thought you loved this movie.
Listen, I don't love this movie. That's not why we watched it. We watched it to do all the movies.
That's why we started with it.
We started with it also because I wanted to get you back for Buster Keaton.
How are you getting me back? I loved it.
Yeah, and you were also blackout drunk for your fucking.
Yeah, me and Jason had a good conversation about a movie you picked, and you were like,
you guys ever think thoughts? Have you ever used a brain for thoughts before? Because I never did. That's what it sounded like talking to you.
There were several moments in the video where your hat was just in the whole frame of your video.
But the perfect circumstances for somebody to fall asleep did happen. We had the oven on because we were cooking dinner. I ate a big dinner, and then.
Did you exhaust yourself earlier with activities?
Well, I commute now. I was fucking sedentary for 2 years and I have to walk to and from work.
That's good.
Right. Then I got home. I laid down on the couch, ate dinner. The oven was on. It was warm in here. And they were just the parts in this movie that are just dialogue that aren't funny. They're just like, we're moving the plot forward. Are like, I'm so glad Trey Parker was able, like, it's South Park, even the first few seasons of South Park even suffer from this too. And I'm curious to see if Orgasmo has this problem. But when they're trying to move the plot forward in this movie, it's like, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
Cut 5 minutes out of this.
This movie could have used a little bit of
85 minutes.
Spring cleaning.
Boom.
Yeah.
I saw an hour and 36 minutes and I was like, how? It's a joke. It's based on a joke.
I mean, the
severe lack of, I'd be down with a solid hour.
The lack of like re-releases and like 4K cuts, and like they're not proud of this movie. This isn't like a crowning achievement for these people. Like they know that it's not amazing. They also know that like it's not worth going after people who put it up on YouTube. The whole movie is on YouTube. If you want to watch this movie, it's on YouTube.
If you're a trauma head, it's definitely in your collection because they have released it. They have released DVD.
Yeah, but they're not. It's not like I'll go back to the beginning. Like The Evil Dead. That's a perfect example of people making a movie on a shoestring budget that they got a couple of random investors to give them some money. And they made it for way too long with way too many people who stayed there for way too long. And it was a torturous project, but it was a project of love. And it ended up being something that people still watch to this day. Like there are people that you can, talk to about The Evil Dead. And they're like, yeah, I just got the new like steel book leather bound eyeball version in the mail last
the
week.
Necronomicon version. I always loved that.
Yeah, like I think that this was like, to them, that was like, that opening scene kind of made me feel like, oh, is this going to be like their attempt at like a very funny Evil Dead? And I was expecting way more cannibal stuff.
Dude,
to happen in
I've
Cannibal,
seen
the
this
musical.
movie. I've seen this movie before, and my memory of it has it with having way more like gore and like comedy.
There's none. It's like a bunch of
No.
stupid jokes that like string together, and then they eventually, like when the gory stuff starts happening, you're like, oh, this is good. Like I like the part when the guy keeps coming back to life.
Me
and
too.
You know it's going to keep going, and you're like, okay, how many more things can they stick into him? That's funny.
But the best thing this movie does do is you see a lot of prototypes. You see a lot of beta and prototypes for later Trey Parker and Matt Stone.
Yeah, like you
comedy.
said, the joke where he takes his hat off and he has a giant fro.
Yeah.
And they use that in every single thing.
So
they even do it in South Park. Kyle takes his hat off and he has a giant like red fro. Yeah.
But the
does that mean he doesn't need a hat because his hair keeps him warm? Is that the joke?
Maybe. The blueprint is
no. The joke is
Jewish.
That his head is small, and then he takes the thing off and he has a giant
the
plume of hair underneath.
I
That's
think it's
the
more
joke.
so.
I'll do it right now.
The blueprint for their comedy is in here. You know, that's why I think this movie could be. This movie could be trimmed down to like there could be a director's cut that's 85 minutes long, and it would get across the same. Because if it's a little bit punchier and it goes from song to song a little bit quicker, then it becomes like South Park, the movie.
Well, I think they also kind of suffer from the fact that like, so one thing in film is like, you know, you set something up and set something up and you pay it off later.
Chekhov's gun, I believe it's what it's called.
Not the same thing. No, those are different things.
I thought it was that the trope is called that because of.
Well, okay, yeah, we can talk about this later.
Okay,
that's different. Yeah,
I want to talk about
but I mean, they go hand in hand, but they're not exactly the same thing. But like setup and payoff are very much like, you set up like a small seed for a joke, and then later you
look at all this fudge.
Exactly.
Want some fudge packer?
Then the payoff for that joke is like, hey,
packer?
You want some fudge packer? Like, comma packer?
Fudge packer?
Yeah.
There was no hey, want some. It was fudge packer.
Yeah.
And that's a very basketball-y joke. And the thing where Squeak attacks Matt Stone is completely reused in basketball also.
I can't wait till we get to basketball.
I know, I'm so excited. That's gonna be our drink. That's gonna be our fucking.
I did watch that movie.
Is that the Friday one?
As a teenager, so I'm kind of excited too. I haven't seen it in probably about 15
it holds
years.
up. I promise you, it holds up. It holds up.
I watched it a few years ago, and
don't promise me anything, because
I will promise you, because I watch this movie every year, and it's fucking great every time.
That might just say more about you than the movie.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
This is kind of like the same as like Ghostbusters. Like basketball is like my teenager Ghostbusters and Ninja Turtles. Like fills that like
you're waiting, you're holding on hope for like the basketball afterlife.
Yeah. Fuck it. Do it. Trey Parker and Matt Stone, I know you're watching, because we have 4 across both platforms. I have 4 viewers right now. So
yeah. So it's you, and then that short guy that we all love as well, who's in he's still in South Park too. He was in the movie and he's been in the show for a while as well. I think he's still their friend.
He absolutely. And there's an interesting thing I saw. So not Randall, the other guy from Clerks, Dante and Squeak are in a movie together, and they're both kind of like two guys that are just used in everything by the big celebrity, and they work in a where is the place where you go when you die?
Hell,
crematorium.
No,
purgatory.
No, like the place where you have a funeral.
Church.
Funeral home.
A funeral home. They work in a wow.
Morgue.
No, a funeral home. Steve got it. Somebody left my TikTok stream because we couldn't come up with funeral home.
They're like, God, it was a mortician. He was like, God damn it.
Yelling it the whole time.
Yeah. Fuck. I'm gonna go watch some fucking racists now.
Why? So what are you saying? What are you?
Oh, my point was just that it's interesting that those two guys are in a movie together. That's all.
Oh, right. Well, I think that like those, like I know that is Dante like the angry one or the other one? I can't
Yeah.
Dante is the one who's like
He's
I'm
not
not
supposed
even
to be
supposed
here
to be
today.
here today.
Yeah,
Like the main character of Clerks.
So
Randall's
like
the one that's like I'm edgy.
Yeah. Dante was retired. Like he had like a real job and like he has a family and stuff. And like
this movie is very recent.
Kevin
Very
Smith
recent.
keeps like, well, it's because Kevin Smith and like his friends, they're still friends. Like they pull him back into stuff, and he's like, I guess I'll do it. Yeah, and like that's kind of cool. Like that's kind of a cool thing where like your friend is like a crazy person who went full into film and is able to still make movies, and it's like, do you want to come back and do this thing? I'll pay you whatever amount of money. I assume it's a lot.
I would cast you guys if I made a movie.
Thank you. I should be an actor, but I have
me? Why me? What did I ever do?
But I have no aspirations to go try to be an actor at fucking age almost 37.
But you're in Toronto.
Yeah, I was a professional wrestler and wrestling announcer for many years. So I hit some heights that I wanted to. And I just want a podcast. And
also,
I don't
like
care.
the film industry is insane.
It's fucked. Like, I did try to get into the film industry, and I didn't want to have to be a fucking, gaffer for, what are they called? Gaffer?
That's a thing.
That's where you suck everyone's dick.
Yeah, I didn't want to have to be a fluffer anymore. I wanted to just before we move on, I wanted to go back
like a
and
production
talk about,
assistant.
I was a production assistant on a couple sets, and it was thankless work. 14 hours on a set for no pay, and I wasn't about that life in my late 20s. I wanted to go before we move on from Randall and Squeak. Before I was saying I was looking at the IMDb, it's a lot of white, like no profile face. No, god damn it, Kalen. No profile.
But I'm pretty sure that's still true.
And it means that nobody from this went on to really do anything.
Because they didn't finish their projects for school.
But if they had wanted to, I'm sure Trey Parker, because they did this movie, I'm sure that they've popped up. If you go and look at them, I didn't go through them obviously, but I'm sure if you go through them, they have production credits that are all on Trey Parker and Matt Stone Productions, because they were probably able to get work through them once Trey Parker and Matt Stone went on to do South Park, Orgasmo, Basketball, Team America, more South Park.
A lot of people who go into film don't end up working in film directly, and a lot of people go to television and end up working in weird sort of like branching stuff that is still attached to the to television or to film, but it's not under the same sort of umbrella, right? So like even if you work in film under certain types of special effects companies, like you're not within the unionization of like a film company, you're a part of like a secondary attachment to it, where you have like benefits, and you're not attached to the film world. Sucks in terms of like benefits and pay. It's like nothing. We pay you a lot. If you make this amount of money, you get no benefits and you get nothing.
It's
but
like
we just throw money at you. Yeah, it's like they just give you a bunch of money. It's weird. It's a very weird world. So I want to bring Spencer on because Spencer knows how it works.
Spencer's in that world and he knows what.
What up, Spencer?
Been doing it for many
years.
He's
not watching. You don't need to.
I have a friend who does. I think he's like a boom operator guy. He would probably have some stories. But that said, my friends, we are at the top of the hour.
Lawrence Fishburne in the face, and then we became best friends. Now I can call him Fish.
I would like to end this at 2 hours. So we're going to go into our final thoughts now, because we spent 25 minutes not talking about this movie just now.
Before we go to the final thoughts, is there any swan left? I want breakfast.
Is there any swan left? I want breakfast. We'll start with Steve once again. Give us your final thoughts, your rating, and any other, just,
I don't think that I would recommend this movie to anybody who isn't interested in the career of Matt Stone or Trey Parker. I don't think that you have any business watching this movie otherwise. It's not going to hold your attention. It's difficult to watch at times. It is a slog for me. I put it on and I got a little bit excited at the beginning introduction when I was like, oh, I recognize the theme song from the end of the South Park. Exactly. And when he did the like, oh, like the jaw movement for the song, I was like, that's funny. I hope that this whole movie is that. And then I didn't get a joke like that at all throughout the entire movie up until the like Abraham Lincoln when he shaves his mustache off. And I don't think it's watchable. It's not a movie you can sit down with a bunch of friends and be like, have you guys seen this? You got to see this. And
did you watch this with anyone, or did you?
Yeah, I remember when I was watching through it, I was like, I remember trying to watch this with friends because I had friends who, you know, in high school were like, if you like South Park, if you like this, if you like that, you're gonna like this. Mm-hmm. And I tried to watch it, and it was on like it looked like they had recorded it on TV, almost like they had recorded it from another VHS player. Like two people put two VHSs into two things at the same time, and like one was recording over the other, so it was like so shit quality. And I even remember then being like, this is really not great. And like the whole time I was just in and out of watching this movie. And that's why I had thought I had seen it all, but I really had been at a party and was just watching, and it was just there. And I would walk in every once in a while and be like, what the fuck am I watching? The story is more interesting than the movie. I read a lot about the actual history of Alfred Packer, and I was like, wow, this is kind of cool. And I can see why they decided to use this as a template for a musical. And I do think, like you said, Kaylin, if it was like a Sweeney Todd where every single word is sung throughout the entirety of the movie, it probably would be way more interesting. And also, like you said, if they were to revisit it, I think that that's the approach that they should take. Is every single moment like my old friends, like Sweeney Todd singing to his blades, like that should be the whole movie. Is like every single word is sung to the audience. There's so much like sag in this movie. Like there's bits and pieces where it catches your interest, but there's too much sag for me to be able to recommend it unless you're really interested, again, like I said, into Matt Stone and Trey Parker and understanding their beginnings. And from that, I can say that like I'm glad I watched it again. Like I'm not unhappy. I'm not like, God damn it, why'd you make me watch this? Because I was interested and I was kind of excited and I wanted to know what kind of gross stuff they were gonna make me digest. And as I've said before, their humor sometimes really grosses me out. As much as I like a lot of it, some of it really makes me feel uncomfortable, and like I like curl my lip and I just want to like, ugh, these guys are vile. These billionaires are fucking vile. The pus from the eye reminded me of the Saddam wiener, like, you know, like the hey, look at that dick or whatever. And I'm looking forward to watching the next few as well, because I do remember being really grossed out by every single one of their movies. There is a lot though in terms of the way that this movie was made that is reminiscent of something like The Evil Dead, like I said. And it's almost like a miracle that they somehow went on to be what they are now. Like they're in charge of a franchise that they could probably sell for $1 billion. Like if Disney wanted to buy South Park as a franchise, they could probably sell it for $1 billion to Disney. And it starts here. Like this movie,
it's got future return for sure.
Yeah, this movie was based off of a fake trailer that they made because they were interested in the story and because Trey Parker had just been cheated on by his fiance. That's the reason that the trailer exists. And the reason that the movie exists is because the trailer exists. And the reason that their careers exist is because this movie exists. So without this movie, we wouldn't have South Park and we wouldn't have Basketball and Team America and all of the other things that they've made. So it's worth it. It's worth it to watch if you care about the creative endeavors of these people, which I do, because I think they're extremely intelligent. I think they're so funny, and I think that they understand everything. Like they haven't yet reached that old man status of when they go too far. I think they go too far all the time, to be clear. Like every single joke they make goes too far, but they understand what too far means and how far out of too far they can go before the world comes crumbling down on top of them. So I will say I did not enjoy this movie. I think it's a big pile of shit, and I didn't enjoy watching it. I laughed once. There's a few jokes throughout it that I enjoyed, and I was like, oh, that's clever writing, but I didn't laugh. I don't think that anybody who doesn't care about all the things I just mentioned should ever watch it. But for those that do, I do recommend it. And I will give it one butt chunk out of one nasty bite of a foot, because I tried a foot once and it was nasty. But yeah,
I like it.
So it's a butt chunk versus a chunk of foot. So the butt I assume tastes good, and the foot I assume
got a little more.
All right.
I'd say take a bite out of both and see where you're at the end of the night.
Your rating system always intrigues me, as does yours, Kaylin. So
I like it. Now I got to step up my game.
Yeah, thank you, Steve. Kaylin, why don't you give us your final thoughts?
Why don't I penultimate this final thought segment?
Hey, look, if I had to overuse that word that month, you wouldn't be using penultimate right now. So,
Steve, you touched on a lot of very good points. Jason, I do want to say thank you for introducing me to this movie, because I've never seen it before and I've never heard of it. And I actually find it kind of odd that I haven't done more of a deep dive on like things that Trey and Matt have been in.
Had seen this.
Yeah, exactly. I just kind of went forward like with basically like so South Park movie is kind of when I started, and then it's just been forward from there. And I'm very excited for the rest of this month, because so as Steve, as you were giving your final words there, you helped me put into words what I was thinking about this. And it's like when you see a baby trying to walk, right? Like, oh, it's look at it try to do its thing. It's not good at it, but at the same time, you're happy for it or whatever, right? Like, and then also the collector in me, so the collector in me was like, ooh, now I need to have all of it to be whole or whatever. But then also to tie in with the analogy with the baby is just seeing that growth from, where things started to where they are now and how they've perfected their style. I will say that I agree with you. I was kind of, I'm not sure if you said this exactly, but I was kind of expecting it to be a little more over the top, and where it felt like it actually had a little bit more of a like a soul to it, right? Like there was something a little more personal to it, like other than just lowbrow jokes or whatever here and there. I did think there was going to be more music for whatever reason. Just when I heard the musical, it was like I just was expecting the whole thing. Isn't that what musicals are, or are musicals just songs here and there?
Both.
I think
really.
anything with musical numbers are considered musicals. Yeah.
Okay. That being said, again, Jason, thank you for introducing me to it. I did enjoy it. I did have some laughs. I do find there is something about simple things that are very funny, especially in the right moment too. Right mind frame. I personally think that if the three of us watch this together, I think it would actually be that much more enjoyable. But altogether, I don't even know. Fuck shit. I give it damn. I give it I give it a fucking medium rare boot side boot flap with a garnish of boot string. That's what I give it.
Boot string. Oh my god.
Yeah.
because
That's the fine cut.
Squeak pulls the string out of his mouth, and it was a very funny moment. All right, thank you, Kaylin. Both of you very insightful. You kind of covered all my points that I wanted to say, but I think that ultimately I wouldn't recommend this movie to people as a hey, you got to see this. This podcast isn't called Hey, you got to see this one. Okay, this movie fits in perfectly for what we're trying to create here, and that was
a home run. That was a home run right there. That was
thank you.
Perfect.
Thank you. I'm good with my words.
Still doing the home run. You can't interrupt.
I'm sorry, I ruined
it. I made Kaylin come early. I prematurely ejaculated. Yeah. But essentially, I wouldn't go out and go out of my way to tell people to watch this unless they were hardcore South Park fans, and that's why it was introduced to me in the first place. Somebody was like, "Oh, have you seen Orgasmo?" It's like, yeah. That's a lesser known movie that kind of takes place right around the same time that South Park is being, starting to become popular. And then people go, have you seen Cannibal the musical? And when they say it like that, you expect it to be this bloodbath, this horrible thing.
And then I wanted a Quentin Tarantino level of like
then
blood.
You watch it and it's just kind of mid, and it's just kind of not, it's kind of funny. There's some familiar faces. There's some familiar.
It was nice to see young Trey Parker.
Trey Parker was a beautiful baby boy in this movie.
He was so hot. He was very hot in this movie. Yeah,
he's very good looking, and he's cut out for Hollywood from a young age, and he never got to be. I think basketball was his team, and him trying to be like he's going to be the comedic guy. But they get so burnt out making not only the show, but every time they make a movie, you hear them talk about how they're never making a movie again. And I'm sure that happened with this. And it's funny that you mentioned that this came from a trailer. South Park came from a mock trailer, basically. And they've built their whole career on these flukes. And
it's not flukes. It's called proof of idea.
Proof of idea. Okay.
They send out something into the ether.
Go to that point.
People like it.
The fluke part of this.
I send out shit all the time. I'm still.
This could have I didn't.
Your ideas are bad.
I didn't talk over either one of you. I stayed quiet for both of you guys.
That's what happens when you're a host. You get talked over all the time.
It could have very easily went like this. They put this thing out. 6 people saw it because it's trauma, and then they just never sold the thing again. And then we go back and say, well, I see why these guys didn't make anything more than this. Not what if, because it's not a movie where like if this was all they ever made, you'd be like, I see why this is all they ever made. Mm-hmm. But you go and you get all the way to 2022, you watch the COVID specials and start the new season, and you want to look back on the history, and you go all the way back to 1993, and then you do a podcast, and then Steve does all this research, and you find out all this extra information. And that enhances it. And I wouldn't say that this was a waste of time watching this movie because of, the experience that I had with it this time was that I watched it, had a bad time, but then got to come talk about it with 2 other people that took notes. Fucking Kaylin watched the movie 3 times, right?
Like 2.5.
2.5. So I was actually going to give it a 3 out of 5, but I don't think I can. I was going to give it, I give it a 3 out of 5 for its significance, but really I give it like a 2.3. And my final rating is 2.3 out of 5 because it is what?
I'm laughing because you're like, I was going to do this. I was going to do this. Its relevance makes it. Its relevance doesn't have any relevance on your vote. It shouldn't anyway.
Well, you clearly haven't been following the way that I rate these movies and the problems.
Have you been following I read it 1 bite out of a foot rated 1 bite out of a butt, and you decide,
that made perfect sense.
Take a bite out of a butt or a
take a bite out of a butt.
I take a bite over butt over Yeah, I take a bite
my
over
point.
over a foot.
My point is that a 3 is too high, but it's a 3 in my heart. But my rating is a 2.3 because objectively the movie is mid and it's bad. And
I wouldn't even say it's mid. It's like low. It's low.
yeah.
Well, 3 would be mid.
Mid means bad. It's a slang thing. Anyway,
I know what it means, but mid means mid. Like mid means middle of the road. You're all right, but you're shit. You're shit.
That's true. I do 2.3. I had a lot of problems with it, and I think it could have been cut down to 75 minutes and done put the same message out there better.
Yeah.
But it's a proof of concept situation, so I think Trauma was like, we want people to get this, and we want them to sit and watch it we want people to talk about it. So you gotta jam as much of your brand and comedy and jokes into it as you can. And they just gave them probably $50,000 and said, go nuts. Maybe even more like $20,000, because goddamn, some of these shots in this movie are just like, you just went like this, and then you're supposed to be like 3 weeks later, and clearly you turned the camera this way to show
the budget of this movie was $125,000.
Oh shit! So it's off by $100,000,
but just remember that like just the props alone, that opening shot cost $4,000.
$4,000.
Money goes places. Also, they weirdly were adamant on filming in locations that were accurate to this telling of the story,
and there were interesting shots, like across the lake probably wasn't a cheap shot, and the shot where they yell and it zooms out from the canyon.
You know what I will say? I didn't notice, and maybe it was some trickery or whatever, but so once you walk in snow, like you've walked in snow or whatever, right? I remember there was a few shots where it looks fresh and shit.
Do they have to get a guy with the fucking...
That's a guy with a broom. I've done it. I have been that guy. Yeah. I had to do it for a car. Like a car comes up a driveway, and we had to film that 4 or 5 times. And I had to go out with a broom and push all the shit to make it look like fresh snow again.
Have you ever noticed in movies when they do like a super slide, but you see the attempts before that take?
Yeah.
Donut
scenes.
Also, interesting fact: the courthouse at the beginning of the movie and throughout the movie is the actual courthouse where Juan Schwartz / Alfred Packer was tried for cannibalism.
Nice.
That's awesome. Steve, one more before we call it quits here. I just was curious. Do you know if they like shot the town scenes like in one of those towns you go to, like a frontier town theme park kind of thing, or like a back lot that was a frontier town? Because that would cost a lot of money either way. I just saw Arrow Peter Pan brand flour or whatever. Very modern.
So the scenes where he was tried were shot in Lake City, and the scenes taking place in the province where he was hanged were shot in different areas, and all of the town scenes were actually shot in like several different like Pioneer Village, recreations towns. Like they're like they're basically just like tourist attractions.
You know the flower brand that I'm talking about? That's like it's like Peter Pan or something. It's like
flower.
It's like a very modern.
Oh, for baking with.
Yeah. It's like a very I saw a very modern looking.
It's a yellow bag or whatever.
Yellow bag with like a
side
of a face. I saw that on the wall and I was like, oh, this is clearly just like a convenient, like an actual convenience store in a pioneer town.
Well, as far as I know, all of those scenes were shot in like actual recreationist villages.
Okay, so maybe that logo just existed for a fucking 100 years.
And the reason it looks so fresh is because it's supposed to be like, we just put it up.
That's a good call. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for indulging me. The rest of sorry, go ahead, Kaylin.
I have a question. Does anybody make cool hats anymore?
Thank you for indulging me. This has been another amazing episode of Hey, Did You See This One? Yes, of course people make hats, Kaylin. What the fuck are you talking about? Google.
Can I buy the one that it's like a cowboy frontier hat thing, but like it's folded up?
Yes.
You probably have to go somewhere specific.
Like Australia. Thank you for coming to
or the oil belt.
Oh, you're talking about like the old prospector hats.
Yeah,
with like the fucking.
You just buy a regular cowboy hat, flip it up,
and wear it the wrong way.
Yeah.
The cowbell solo. I just got to give a shout out to
oh
the cowbell
shit, we
solo.
forgot to mention the cowbell solo. That was amazing, and it went on for so long. I laughed out loud at that as well.
Yeah, it was good.
But I would like to thank you guys
You
for
guys
another
have a weird sense of humor.
Yeah.
We're from Halifax.
I see you. This has been the third week of me picking the movies somehow of 6 weeks in a row.
We all agreed on Final Fantasy. Just
the first week.
Get off your laurel lane.
Horse is high.
Horse is called the highest
My horse
horse.
is high. Lillian, I don't know. We're not doing them in order because I think that thematically I want to finish with Team America because it is the best. I guess technically we are doing them in order though.
Well, we did South Park first, but we did that because it was tied into animation.
Animation.
That I guess though, these ones are in order. I think
these ones are in order.
Yeah.
Yes. For some reason in my head, I thought that, but because I want to do basketball close to my birthday on the 22nd, which is a Friday, and we're gonna get Liddy, and we're gonna probably do an after show because it's Friday night.
I might barf. I might barf too. Let's all barf.
I mean, I'll definitely have fun
and barf.
So okay, I finished the wings, right? I get 2 orders, so it's like 15 wings per order. I think I might have shared like one each or whatever. So like I had 30 wings minus 3 or 5. We're at the end of the night. One of our buddies wants to go. I'm full. I can't move. For some reason, I ordered a Pepsi. $3 Pepsi.
Just help your belly.
You're right, exactly. Like give a little just like flavor / wash it down and shit. And then so I have some Pepsi. I have one more bite of. I had like 2 wings left, and I had like half of a wing or something like that, and then had some Pepsi. We took off, and then I think the carbon or whatever, carbon. Is
Carbonation.
Carbonation. Yeah, carbonation.
I thought you were saying carpet. I think the
carpet. Oh,
I ate a little bit of carpet.
Ooh,
here we are.
Yo, something about pillows made of corduroy.
Don't change the subject. I want to go to bed.
Okay, my bad. So I threw up a little bit.
Okay. For Kaylin and Steven, for Kaylin and Steve, I'm Jason.
For Kaylin, for Jason, I am Steven.
For Steven and Jason, I'm Kellen.
And I have to ask you the same question that we ask each and every week, and that is, hey, did you see this one?
Whoa. Hey, did you see this one?
I have to ask the question because I always forget. Hey, did you see this one?
No.
I never saw it again a day of my life.
I
saw it.
I saw it.